걸스데이의 시크릿 아이템, 큐트 핫팬츠, 러블리 스카트, 토트백, 키를? 아니 진짜 시크릿 아이템은 시크릿 스타걸. 속눈썹을 볼륨 있게, 손끝까지 화려하게. 걸스데이의 비밀, 시크릿 스타걸. 쉿, 비밀이야.
저희가 사실은 이 행사를 2009년도부터 회의를 하기 시작했는데요. 뭐냐면 2010년도가 한국이 일본에게 강제히 병합된 지 100년 되는 해였습니다. 그래서 그런 의미에서 그런 역사적 의미가 진정으로 우리에게 주는 교훈이 무엇이고 또 그에 대한 피해자들이 여전히 현재로 존재하기 때문에 예를 든다면 일본군 위안부, 강제징용 피해 등등 무수한 어떤 식민지 피해가 다 그로부터 지금 나와 있는 상황인데도 불구하고 전혀 해결되지 않는. 그러나 일본은 그 문제 자체를 1965년도에 한일 간에 맺어진 국교 정상화 조약, 말하자면 한일 기본 조약으로 끝났다. 일관되게 그런 주장을 하고 있습니다. 그렇다면 여전히 피해자는 90세 이르기까지 이 평생의 고통을 안고 살고 있고 그에 대한 가해자는 끊임없이 사죄는커녕 오히려 그 상업적 매춘부였다 이렇게 매도하는 이러한 어떤 상황에서 과연 역사적 진실을 우리는 어떤 식으로 밝히면서 정의를 추구해 가야 될 것인가. 바로 오늘 살고 있는 우리한테 주어진 과제라고 믿고 한일 양국의 양심적인 학자들이 공동으로 연구 활동을 해온 거죠. 그래서 2009년도 그 회의가 사실은 몇몇 사람이 모인 게 아니었지만 갖고 있는 내용성은 정말 어떤 진정한 역사에 대한 진실을 밝히고자 하는 그런 뜨거운 열정으로 묻혔던 거죠. 그것이 하나의 흐름이 되어서 놀랍게도 그때 이제 일본에서 오셨던 학자들이 한 70대 연배가 많으신 분들이죠. 그분 5분들이었는데 그 다음에 그분들이 일본에 가서 양심적인 호소를 하고 또 동료 역사학자, 국제부학자 변화가 왔습니다. 무슨 얘기냐니까 2010년 5월 10일 그리고 7월 28일 1차, 2차 한일 공동성명이 나옵니다. 그게 타이틀이 뭐냐니까 1910년 한일 병합조약은 원천무효라는 겁니다. 이게 왜 중요하냐니까 일본은 1910년 자체가 합법이라는 겁니다. 강제병합조약이 합법으로 체결했기 때문에 45년 한국이 광복될 때까지 그 35년 공간이 합법지대입니다. 그 속에서 일본이 태평양 전쟁을 하기 위해서 국가 동원령을 내리는데 이제 국민들, 한국 국민들 일본 사람이라는 거죠. 그 동원령이 합법이라는 겁니다. 그러다 보니 끌려갔던 일본군 위안부 강제징용 피해자 모두 일본은 합법이라는 거예요. 조금 미안할 뿐 법적으로는 합법이라서 해줄 게 없다. 지금 일본 논리가 그거거든요. 그걸 전제로 65년도에 사실은 그런 일제 피해를 당한 한국으로서 냉전 체제에 들어가면서 결국 한국 전쟁이 일어난 건데 일본은 다시 아이러니하게도 한국 전쟁 통해 경제적인 부를 쌓게 됩니다. 역설적으로 한국은 한국 동남아로 모든 경제가 피폐해지죠. 그 상황에서 일본이 한국에서 그 65년에 줬다는 돈이라는 것은 말 그대로 그 자금 타이틀 자체가 경제협력 자금이라는 겁니다. 오늘날 말하는 ODA, 그러니까 경제협력 지원 자금이죠. 그런데 걔도 지원 자금을 자기들은 줬다면서 지금 오늘 와서는 그걸로 해서 모든 게 끝났다는 이제 주장을 하는데 본질은 사실은 그게 아니거든요. 해서 바로 오늘 이제 이 문제가 비단 한국만이 아니라 여기 참석하는 학자들 모두가 말하자면 호주에서 남아프리카 공화국에서 또 대표적으로 일본 학자들 다들 뭐냐면은 21세기 이 시점에서는 그런 야만의 시대, 식민주의 시대에 벌어졌던 모든 잘못을 치유하고 청산하고 진정 그러한 어떤 피해자들의 눈물을 닦아준 터대기에서 더 이상은 이제 인권 침해가 주어지는 세상이 아니어야 된다. 그런 출발이 바로 이러한 세계적인 양심의 학자들이 다 모여서 오늘 회의를 하게 된 겁니다.
日本の朝鮮植民地支配について、以前は戦争責任とか、戦後保障という議論をしてきたわけですが、近年植民地責任あるいは植民地支配責任という議論をしています。でそれは前提とした上で植民地責任の中身についてもっとはっきりと植民地犯罪 ということを、強調するべきだというふうに考えます。それで、植民地犯罪という言葉は聞き慣れないんですが、国連の国際法委員会で、1991年頃には、国際法上の犯罪として植民地犯罪という犯罪を作ろうと、そういう議論があったので、それが従来ほとんど研究されてないもんですから、当時、どういう議論をして植民地犯罪という犯罪を作ろうとしたのか。しかし結果として、イギリスとかオランダとか、植民地支配をした国々が猛反対をしたために植民地犯罪という法律はできなかったんですね。で、なぜできなくなったのか、その部分を今日の報告で紹介をしました。で、国際法上植民地犯罪という概念は残念ながらなくなったんですが、ただその考え方をその後の2001年のダーバンの人種差別反対世界会議などで使ってきているので、植民地支配は人道に対する罪であったとか、あるいは植民地支配そのものが植民地犯罪という犯罪だったのだと、そういう議論をもう一回巻き起こしたい、そういうふうに考えて、今日の報告をやりました。
In the first instance, when the Land Restitution Commission was established and a sophisticated bureaucracy with a national office and regional offices and so on, and there was an educational campaign in the newspapers and on the media telling people you can lodge claims, etc., etc. There was a very slow response to it because the government can't take property and sit with it and then who gets it. It committed itself to a legal process and a process by which, and then they didn't own land there. So initially, the response was very slow, okay? So it depended on people to organize themselves, and also traditional land ownership was communal. It was often families and clans and so on, and there would be very little documentation. It was simply inherited, and it was agreed upon that family A owned this and family B owned that and so on. So most of the claims were urban claims because it was formal, it was bureaucratically certifiable and so on. Because under apartheid, many urban areas, to enact apartheid, people were removed, were forced out of their homes to make areas for whites only. And in those cases, people had documentation that they owned or they were long-term renters of land and so on. So that was the first set of complications, in that there was a very slow uptake. Maybe people were not convinced, or there were all sorts of problems in them finding their own documentation and so on. Then the government now sat with all the claims and had to work through and listen to the claimants making their cases, and they had to so it became a huge, and it is of course a huge bureaucratic process if you want to do it properly. So there's this series of problems, but at the same time the way in which the bureaucracy identified land that could be bought, for instance farms which were inactive and inoperative because the farmers were indebted, the government could simply have said, don't worry about solving the debt, we'll take the land though, and then redistributing that land. Do you understand? So there was seems to be, and I'm not really an expert on the details, but there seemed to be a lack of imagination and primarily a lack of will to sort this problem out. So there will have to be a rethink and new engagement from people and to address the problem.
But it seems to me that this is the beginning of huge Pandora's box opening, because if you start talking about massacres and things like that, there are endless cases. For instance, during the Second World War, people say something like 70 million people were killed, but about 45 million of them were civilians. So that's just a handful of people, massacres everywhere. And then how to compensate becomes unmanageable. For instance, let me give you some example. For instance, when Japanese invaded China, Chiang Kai-shek tried to slow down the Japanese advancement and broke the dam, and they flooded the whole area, and killing large number of Chinese people, which means that the Chinese people are innocent victims. And then China can sue the Taiwan to pay for that. But at the same time, when the Chiang Kai-shek shifted to Taiwan, escaping the communist the attack, then they conducted quite a lot of atrocities, committed atrocities within Taiwan, which means that many innocent civilian Taiwanese were killed, which means Taiwanese citizens are entitled to claim the compensation from the Taiwanese government, as well as that kind of thing, endless. The 20 million civilians died in China, another 20 million in USSR, and then which means that, for instance, many cities were destroyed. And then many cities means that, for instance, 60 Japanese cities were bombed, and with lots of civilians there. And Dresden and many Dutch, the German cities, as well as Dutch cities like Rotterdam, were completely flattened with a lot of people there. So innocent people were killed. And if those innocent people's relatives, family members, if they start claiming, what can you do about just endless? And then, for instance, similar thing happened in the French Indochina, Vietnam. When the Japanese surrendered, French came back to re-establish French colony there. And then Vietnam War started. Then French committed the atrocities. Then if the Vietnamese people start claiming the compensation, and then there's just endless. So you can't just, it's unmanageable. War is something like that. This Rawagude thing, just a handful, one event out of many. And then Indonesians attacked Eurasians, killed about 30,000 Eurasians, which is half between the Dutch men and the local women and children. So they were killed because local Indonesians thought they were on the Dutch side, Dutch colonizers. And then those innocent people who were born from the Dutch fathers and local Indonesian mother was massacred simply because they were half. And then those people, if you start claiming, who do you sue? Which government? The Indonesian government, yeah? Then how about the Dutch government? And they are doing, all different groups are doing lots of things. It's a very confusing situation. If you start acknowledging that compensation and things like that, and what happens to the Pol Pot or something like that, and who is going to sue whom? And I don't know. It's not something you can just. Today, during the conference, most attendants are lawyers. Lawyers think that every single person has got a right to claim. But historians, judgment, I'm a historian, I'm not a lawyer. Their judgment is entirely different. Because the lawyer's judgment is based upon certain logics. But historians want to examine the event in a big context with the various angles, from the victim's point of view as well as the perpetrator's point of view. And it's try to understand the complexity, just understanding, not talking about justice or not talking about payment or blaming someone. Or historians sometimes blame, of course, but blaming someone is not the aim of history. History is to understand from various people's points of view, multiple, flexible approach. But lawyers, I think it's quite like that.
Girls' Day의 시크릿 아이템, 큐트 핫팬츠, 러블리 스카트, 토트백, 키릴? 아니 진짜 시크릿 아이템은 시크릿 스타걸. 속눈썹을 볼륨 있게, 손끝까지 화려하게. Girls' Day의 비밀, 시크릿 스타걸. 비밀이야.